Okay, so I took the Prima XP in 308 pump action Turkish, and what one of the guys at the range, Rick, he called it my 308 shotgun. My Turkish 308 shotgun, because I tell you what, I don't know what's going on with that, and I'm going to have a serious look at it. But let's talk about the CZ457 in the Oryx chassis. Oh, so one thing about the Oryx chassis, it's got various size screws all over the place, and there's a lot of them. Right? There's a lot of screws on this thing. So if you get one of these, or any chassis in general, just check to make sure that the screws are tight and that they're all there, because that screw there that holds the magwell and trigger guard, which is one piece, onto the actual chassis, that one was missing. Now, whether it was never there in the first place and I didn't notice, or whether it was loose and fell out at some stage while it was in my possession, I don't know. But in any case, I'm lucky to live where I live, because this thing has got imperial screws, all different sizes. They're all, looks like they're all UNF, but that screw was a 3/16 UNF. Luckily, guess what? One of the local, the industrial, because where I live, it's a very industrial town. It's sugar. It's sugar cane. There's a lot of harvesting going on. There's a lot of machinery, a lot of tractors from all different parts of the world. So metric and imperial bolts and nuts and screws are quite normal to be stocked, and 3/16 UNF. Now, if I reckon if I was in another town where there wasn't the sort of industry that there is here, I wouldn't be able to get these, but I got 10. Yeah, they're only bugger all anyway, like $1 each. So there's that. Now, what happened when I shot this? This scope, the Nico Sterling ED Hornet 10-50, is, I have to say, excellent. Really, really, really good. And value for money. You can't get better value for money. Now, so I'll show you the results, but they're sort of moot because I'll tell you why later. So anyway, SK Magazine, I started with SK Magazine just to sight it in and just mucking around, and yeah, it didn't really like that. Not that I didn't like it, it's just that it is, I've never shot it very well out of any rifle, but the smallest group was like, oops, there you go, an Imperial. The smallest group was like just a smidgen over an inch. This is at 50 metres, 55 yards. So, I mean, that's not shocking, but yeah, not really my cup of tea. Right, so that's probably the best one, so I'll leave that. Yeah, wow. I tried SK Standard Plus, and sort of varying results. The smallest group was, I should have measured these before, but I didn't. I'm in a bit of a hurry. Like 0.65. SK Pistol Match Special. That was actually not bad at all. So the reason why the starting groups are bigger and then they get smaller is because in between each box of ammo, regardless of the brands, I ran a wet patch through and then a dry patch. So they were clean barrels. So, I mean, that group there, without that flyer, would have been a third of an inch, but with the flyer it's half an inch. This one here, I actually tore that paper there. This one here is third of an inch, and this one here, I mean that would have been, without fly, like with the fly it's 0.37. Without that one flyer, so these are 5-shot groups, without that one flyer it would have been 0.2 of an inch. So SK, it likes SK ammo, SK Pistol Match Special. Now SK Long Range Match, I only had, I think, 20 rounds, it would appear, and without the flyer that would have been like a quarter of an inch. With the flyer it was half an inch. I'm looking at half an inch there as well. Yep, half an inch. There with the fly looking 0.7 without, less than half an inch. That one there, that was, that without the fly it would have been like a third of an inch, half an inch. So SK Pistol Match Special, it really likes. Now, just be back in a sec. Okay, I'm back. That federal gold medal match, yeah, it was okay, but nothing special. Let's see, RWS. So I had a few different types of RWS. I had RWS Pistol Match Special R, Rifle Match Special, Rifle Match Special Sorted, and they were alright, but nothing even close to the SK. Like there was one group there with a flyer that would have been, because the groups did tighten up, that group there without the flyer would have been, almost a quarter of an inch. With the flyer it ended up about half an inch. So the RWS was alright. I might try it again. I don't know. Now, so my favourite ammo is Eley Match. I make no, I don't hide that fact at all. I'm always pushing it. So I had 3 different Eleys. I brand 3 different Eleys: Club, Sport and Match. The Club, it actually got worse. The Sport, it was sort of alright. I mean, there's one, that group there is, almost a quarter of an inch, or 0.3 of an inch. It is, in fact, 0.3 of an inch, which is not bad. The Eley Match, not so much. In fact, I'll tell you what the problem was with the Eley. Now, not only with the Eley, but with the other brands, just every so often I was having a light primer strike, and I'd have to, and I wouldn't be able to extract it, and so I'd have to push it out with the cleaning rod. I'd spin it around to a spot that was still clean on the rim, and then I'd fire again and it'd go off. That didn't happen often, but it did happen a few times. With the Eley, it was even more, it happened even more. And with the Match, I gave up on shooting the Match because I had so many light strikes that I just couldn't get them to shoot. That's no bullshit. Now, you may well ask, why is that so? Well, I was sort of worried at the start. Where's the bolt? I was kind of worried at the start. I've got shit everywhere here. I was worried at the start because I have actually reprofiled the striker, the firing pin, and I'll tell you why. With the 455 and the 457, CZ 455 and 457, because they came in and made it a switch barrel rifle action to cater for 22 long rifle, 22 Winchester Magnum rimfire, and 22 HMR, Hornady Magnum Rimfire, 17 HMR. Now, so the 17 HMR is essentially a rimmed down 22 Magnum. So the 17 HMR and the 22 Magnum are the same head, have the same rim on them. The difference, but there is a difference between 22 long rifle, which is that, and 22 Magnum and 17 HMR. And the difference is that the 22 long rifle has a heeled bullet, which is a very old archaic design, meaning that its profile is, it's actually got a shoulder. So it's got a straight case and a shoulder, and the bullet and the case are the same diameter. So it has to have a shoulder to fit into the case. With the 22 Magnum and 17 HMR, they are not that way. They are a little bit bigger. So the diameter of the case of the 22 Magnum and 17 HMR is bigger because the cases are straight. They do not have a heel on them. I mean, the projectiles are straight. They don't have a heel on them. So what you've got is you've got a different size, different diameter rim between 22 Magnum 17 HMR and 22 long rifle. And the long rifle is smaller. To cater for that, what CZ did was they went from your normal standard just round firing pin to a rectangular affair. It's a big rectangle that goes through the bolt. Now, so what that does is it's able to hit the bigger rim, strike the bigger rim of the 22 Mag 17 HMR case, and also the small rim of the 22 long rifle case. What that does is it creates unnecessary vibrations, harmonics in the rifle, and it also distorts the rim unnecessarily, because you don't have to be, because right on the outside of the rim, there's nothing. All right, that's the thickest part of the case, and there's nothing there. The actual priming compound is further in, so you don't need that profile striker to set off the priming compound in a 22 long rifle. You do with the 17 HMR and the 22 Magnum because it's a bigger rim. So, and I've seen two guys do videos on reprofiling the striker. So it hits the 22. So that the striker is actually designed just for the 22 long rifle. Now, luckily, I have two CZ 457s, and I took both of those bolts along with me just in case to the range to see if I'd reprofiled it wrong and I'd be getting light primer strikes, or it wouldn't be setting the compound off or whatever. Well, when I started getting those light primer strikes, I thought, uh-oh, I've screwed up. I've reprofiled the striker wrongly, and now I'm getting light primer strikes. Well, it just so happens, but you know, I tell you what, which I began to notice later on, because I put the other bolt in my from my 17 HMR rifle, which has a perfectly stock standard striker, and that was getting light primer strikes. And also just the sound when I pull the trigger, because the 22 long rifle isn't very loud, and when you've actually got your cheek on the butt, the vibrations, the sound vibrations actually go through into your head, and you can hear it. A lot of what's going on within the components of the rifle, like the spring. And it sounded weird. It sounded weak. Now, so after much deliberation and thinking about why am I getting light primer strikes, and with the Eley, it was unworkable. Like, I couldn't shoot the Eley match. I could not shoot the Eley match. I was getting that many light primer strikes. More than half. In fact, well more than half. It was just a waste of time trying to shoot it. Now, so that tells me that the Eley rims, especially with match, are a lot thinner than the other brands. Now, so I was racking my brain for a while there, wondering what is going on. And then I thought, hang on a minute, this barrel, right, the specs may be that far out that I'm getting light primer strikes. So what I thought was that distance maybe shorter there on that one. And I haven't actually measured it, and I thought that's got to be the only explanation. That has got to be the only explanation. And sure enough, this morning I got up, I measured it, and this is shorter. So what that tells me is that I have to get that shoulder just a smidgen, cut down just a smidgen. So I'm going to the range tomorrow. I'll take it into the gunsmith and I'll tell him, can you just take a smidgen off that shoulder, please? I'll take both barrels in and tell him, make it the same as that one. Now, what can I say? Because the actual cutouts are they're in the same spot. Yeah, so I could take it to a local, just locally. There's quite a few people who have lathes, right? There's a couple of different engineering places here in town that have lathes, but I really want to take it to the gunsmith, and because he knows what's going on, and I'll get him to take it off. I mean, the difference is really not a lot, but it is enough. So I'll get it on millimeters. The difference is enough that I'm getting light primer strikes, and with the Eley, a lot. So we'll measure it there. I'll get that. So there it's saying, it's bigger than that. Really hard to measure. 30.0. 30 point. Yeah, it's less than that. It's somewhere where it's. So 30 point. There it's 30 point. 30.3, about 30.3, and on this it's 30.25. So you're looking at 0.05 of a millimetre. That's the difference. It's 0.05 of a millimetre, but that is enough to give me serious light primer strikes. So, as I said, I've got to take to the gunsmith and yeah, get him to turn that face down. Take a little bit off, just a wee little bit. So, I don't know what, because having worked, and in particular CNC lathe, having worked on mills and lathes, when you're machining something, there's a tolerance, and the tolerance might be plus or minus 0.05 of a millimetre. Now, if that was 0.05 of a millimetre too long, I wouldn't be having these primer strikes. But that's 0.05 of a millimetre too short. So I'm assuming that was the tolerance, and that was right on the edge. That was 0.05 too short, and he went, yeah, that's within tolerance. Now, that's my assumption, and unfortunately, yeah, that's not workable. So tomorrow, when I go to the range, I'll stop off at the gun store and say, can you please take 0.05 of a millimetre off. Hopefully he's not too busy. It's a pretty basic job. You know, luckily these things, you know, the barrels just undo 2 grub screws and out they come. So that's what's going to happen. And then what I'll do is I'll do some more testing. I shot, like, I was there all day. I was there from like 7:15. It opens at 8. I like to get there nice and early, get everything, because I take a lot of shit with me to the range. So I was there from about 7:15 till almost 1 o'clock, which is when shooting stops, casual shooting stops. So, and I was just shooting away, and I was also shooting the Prima XP, which I don't know what's going on. It's turned out to be a bit of a hose, but my suspicion is that I was having scope issues. I think that's what I think, because it hasn't broken any more mount screws, any more Picatinny rail screws. So I don't know. I might chuck the red dot on it and just have a go with that. See what happens, because that's more along the lines of what you're going to be wearing on a gun like that, you know, a pump action like that. But anyway, we'll see what happens. So until then, see you later.